Freedom Radio Hour. Live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Freedom Radio Hour. I'm your host, DJ Adam Cruz, and I'm sitting here next to my fantastic co-host,
Eddie Nicholas. What up, beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of 91.6 FM, the Freedom Radio Hour, y'all. Yeah. We're here live and direct. Mr. Cruz, give our normal spiel.
Well, first of all, I'm so happy to see you.
Always.
Thanks for taking the time again. Let us take a moment to let our viewers and our listeners know that the Freedom Radio Hour is here not only giving you fantastic music, but we're here to be your number one source for music, business, news, and trends from around the globe. We're live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM, the Heartbeat of Sudan, and on the web at freedomradiohour.com. All right, let's jump right into it.
Yes, jump into it.
Okay, so I think this episode we need to dedicate to some planning, some strategizing, and a little bit of education. Okay? So we're talking to you artists, DJs, producers, poets, artists, painters, all those folks that are putting stuff out there.
Fellow creatives.
Yeah, fellow creatives expressing themselves in an artistic way, making some money from that work. Here are some tips that might apply to you. Okay, I wanted to talk about VR. Have you ever heard of that?
Video recording?
No,
virtual reality.
Yes. You know what's so funny? I did think that right at first. When I first learned of that, it's like, is that something from a VHS era?
It sounds like
it does.
Virtual reality.
Virtual reality. And that's really become quite the new feature in technology as it relates to music and arts.
Mm-hmm. And when you look at that virtual reality, that has been in the mix for more than 40 plus years.
Oh yeah,
already.
Like different versions of it
until we've gotten the computer power that we have now to be able to do what's being done now. But what's going on musically?
Have you ever engaged in video and virtual reality? Have you seen the funky looking binocular type things where you put on?
You know what? I've tried.
Okay, you have.
Even when I've gone to the little 3D things and they give you them glasses and all that stuff, they end up hurting up in here. So it's but so long that I can sit up and have that stuff in front of my face like that. It starts to get right up in here and right up in here.
Well, I think it's important for us to know, a very interesting article that just came out on Forbes magazine that talked about how the music industry is very eager to see how it plays out, the growth of VR concerts, that is. So what's a VR concert?
Well, from my description, and the only ones that I can really rely on are what they are doing in Las Vegas now with Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston. These people are long gone and dead, but they beamed them out of the heavens, out of the stratosphere, beam them onto a screen or something where they look like they are actually there performing for you. So that's my version of virtual reality.
That's one version of VR that basically using hologram technology to use to celebrate the artistic endeavors of our posthumous artists. You know, so like a Prince, Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, etc.
So I believe we're going to see more of that.
We're definitely going to see more of that for sure, especially as artists are engaging more in technology and then are growing older. There's going to be more of a propensity to create things like holograms. But we're talking even more than just holograms. We're talking about young, fresh artists like Billie Eilish, Panic at the Disco, artists that are on the pop scene right now. They're really doing a few things. Yes, you can buy a ticket to their concert and see them live and direct, right? But for those that can't obtain tickets, there are now apps, as you can imagine, that are developing that take advantage of it. For example, one app in particular will allow you for like $7.99 a month or whatever. I'm not giving names out, it's not important. You can search out apps for VR if you wish. But the point is that there is a growing market of consumers that are willing to spend that $7.99 a month, whatever, like Spotify or Apple, to access VR concerts. So if you can imagine, you're really into, say, Beyonce, and you click on to watch a Beyonce concert. Now, it may be live, in which case she's live somewhere, say in Sydney, Australia, but you're at home. You didn't go to Sydney to see the show, nor could you afford to go. So you buy into this subscription.
$70.99 subscription.
And you get access to watch the show. Okay, so you're thinking out there and perhaps, so this ain't nothing but Netflix or Amazon or HBO. They do that now. You get access to show. Okay, but what's different about this is, imagine you can change her outfit by clicking on something. Imagine instead of a dress, now she has a pantsuit on. Imagine you can click on the ring. Like, here's your ring. Show it to the camera. If you're listening, he's wearing a ring. What if I touch this ring and then now it opens a screen where I can buy that ring that I just love, Beyonce ring? Or if I was watching Eddie, I'd click and buy the ring he wore. Or Eddie, I find him to be very stylish. So imagine a super sharp outfit that Eddie's rocking. In the midst of his live performance, you click on
it,
that hat or that vest.
Where you can buy it from. But don't they do that already?
But what they're trying to do is add a layer of interactivity that you see in prior episodes. We talked about how Amazon was getting into the HD world and how I said you're going to be on the lookout for HD concerts, and you're like, well, that's already been happening. Yes, but now it's marketed under the umbrella of these new initiatives. So Amazon is plugging their HD, so watch it.
Part of the play.
Yeah, so now you're not watching Beyonce live. Now you could watch Beyonce live in HD.
In high definition.
Yes, and so that's where we're going now with VR concerts. That's going to be a millions of dollars type of business going forward as we get older and our consumers aren't going to be able to make concerts and they'll stay their butts home to watch and engage with artists. But I feel like the big elephant in the room is the level of impersonality that exists, the lack of personal touch, the lack of that connectivity that we need as artists to fan. That relationship, I feel like, is left in the dark when you're dealing with this VR type apps.
And again, when you're talking about that virtual reality world, you create your own. In some instances, you know, when you have people, when you see it with the glasses and all of that type of stuff, they're punching in information of what they want to see.
I forgot to mention that back in the Beyonce concert in a virtual reality setting, you can, just like Eddie alluded to, you can switch up the sequence of the set list of the concert. You could change the background and a bunch of different things you can do while you're watching the show. So it's not like your grandmother's
Star Trek-ish
concert series, you know.
So Star Trek.
It is so Star Trek. Let's take a break. We'll come back and talk more about this music business doing this. In particular, I want to talk about 4 ways that you should be engaging in brand planning. Don't know what I'm talking about? Come back, we'll explain it all right here on the Freedom Radio Hour.
91.6 FM, the heartbeat of Sudan. Come on back, y'all.
All right.
From author and music industry leader Adam Cruz, check out the new book, Free the Music Business, Tips and Tales from an Indie Music Nerd. Available now on paperback, Kindle, audiobook, and soundtrack, courtesy of Mixtape Sessions.
Freedom Radio Hour. Live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM.
What up, beautiful people, and welcome back. 91.6 FM, the heartbeat of Sudan. Freedom Radio Hour, y'all. I'm Eddie Nicholas, and I'm sitting up here with my knowledgeable, you know this man just knows everything.
Hardly.
This one right here. Tell him what your name is.
Adam Cruz. You know I crack him every time. You're tuned in to the Freedom Radio Hour, your #1 source for music, business news, and trends from around the globe. Before we broke, we were talking about some of the things we should be doing as artists to keep our education levels up. In particular, we want to just know what's going on in the world of virtual reality and the future of the music game. You know, if you're out there making music, especially you artists, singers, or performers out there, it's really important that you understand just not what's relevant for today, but understand what might be relevant in the future.
Because the future is now.
Well, you say that. That's so true. So true.
The future is now.
It is. You're right. I think in the interest of the future, we should talk about some planning. You know, oftentimes when I encounter other artists or other DJs and producers, they often talk about all these plans that they have. But when I ask them when they plan to execute these plans, they say now, or right now in a week, 2 days, or whatever. And it always puzzles me. I'm like, wow, and I include myself in this, we don't plan with enough notice for things. So if we are planning projects, we're so quick with it that we're like, okay, the record's out now, but you have no plan or strategy after it comes out. And I'm also talking to you, so if you're a painter, a poet, an author, any of that stuff is important for you to take in. And what I mean is this. We want to talk right now about a term called brand planning. You know, we talked about brand in a previous episode and some of the things you can do to market yourself or brand yourself in the music game. But today we want to talk about planning, which I think we often don't do a lot of.
And in case of that, we have our brands, but what do we have planned for our brands?
Exactly.
To bring our brands to the masses that
Right,
we
and to
want
the next level. The
Exactly.
very thing that we often say we want to take things to the next level. What does that mean? So that leads me to point number one, which is focus on your vision. I can't tell you oftentimes when I say, okay, well, what are you after? What do you want to do? Oh, I don't know. I just want to be able to sing.
Which so many people do, but after you sing, what is the game plan after that?
Exactly.
You know, and again, finding your voice is a part of that brand too. So people can identify, well, if this is the Adam Cruz brand, well, I know this because I know Adam uses certain tones or certain messages. This is the Eddie Nicholas brand. Well, I know he sings a certain way, or one switches it up. People need to be able to recognize. And I think that's when we talk about branding, be able to recognize.
Yes. So when you're planning for your brand, the number one thing is to focus on your vision. So are you trying to do this full time, be a full-time artist? Are you trying to supplement your income in some way? Is this just a hobby? Also, focusing on your vision in terms of your image. You know, we often talk about image and the importance of image. So in Eddie's case, I always love how stylish he is, right? And I love his outfit choices. So I think to me, get out of here. I always feel like you have this great, you plan for your look, in other words. And I think that speaks volumes about your intentionality. You do things with a purpose. You just don't go out there. So I think number one, focus on your on your vision. How are you going to present yourself? How will you look? How will you sound? How will your artwork look? What are you going to be singing about?
Or painting about.
Or painting about or expressing yourself about. So number one, focus on your vision. The second thing we want to do is we want to narrow down your audience. Oftentimes we have that audience is huge around the globe. We want to say, I remember watching American Bandstand with the late Dick Clark, and he was interviewing Madonna back in the day, and he said, what's your plan now? She goes, to take over the world. And
she thought she was part of Pinky and the Brain.
Well,
but I will say she did exactly that.
She wasn't wrong, right?
She wasn't wrong.
But in this day and age, given the fact that we have social media, we have things like virtual reality, all kinds of tools that Madonna didn't have back in the American Bandstand days, I think we should be looking at. So you want to narrow down your audience. You want to know, okay, who are the people? Oh, there's a person that likes dance music. Okay, not only does he or she like dance music, but they like a male vocal. They like that gospel edge. Okay, let's bring in Eddie for that. So it's about trying to tap into, just like we talked about previously, the community that is into that style of music or that style of painting or that style of poetry, whatever it is for you. Find the community and also find the lovers of that community.
Exactly.
That's your audience.
That's your audience, and that's where the networking comes in, and that's where a lot of support comes from, with like-minded people that are a fellow creative, as Adam and I tend to call people that are focused on their vision, but at the same time focused on a shared vision that brings notoriety to what everyone is doing.
Yep. And the other thing too is when I say know your audience, oftentimes because we're in a digital age, we think, well, we're global. That means somebody in France can hear us, or New Jersey. Yes, that's all true, except you have to know your audience. So that doesn't mean to broadcast, for example. I'm using broadcasting as an example. Just don't hit go and hope that somebody in Swaziland hears you. No. Plan for your brand. That means, okay, while I do this online thing to try to get to the outer world, let me also plant the seeds in my local artistic community, because those two things should be operating at the same time. What two things? The local endeavors and the global endeavors.
And that's where the e-invites and all of those things come into play, where you're inviting those people that you know that like what you do, and you are sending them a special invitation to come and join you in either your virtual world or in your creative world or
in your physical world. Exactly.
So
let's take another break. When we come back, let's break down more of this brand planning right here on the Freedom Radio Hour, your number one source for music business news and trends from around the globe.
91.6 FM, the Heartbeat of Sudan, Freedom Radio Hour.
Singer, songwriter, performer, and host Eddie Nicholas debuts his fantastic new album. Released in conjunction with mixtape sessions and Deck Music imprint, Eddie brings you a 16-track album full of fantastic jams upon jams, perfect for any dance floor. The album includes records like Fall in Love, Goomba, and Reuben. Check out EddieNicholas.com and TrackSource for his brand new LP.
From author and music industry leader Adam Cruz, check out the new book, Free the Music Business, Tips and Tales from an Indie Music Nerd. Available now on paperback, Kindle, audiobook and soundtrack, courtesy of Mixtape Sessions.
Freedom Radio Hour.
And we're back live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM and on the web at freedomradiohour.com. You're deep in the zone right here on the Freedom Radio Hour, your number one source for music, business, news, and trends from around the globe. I'm your host, DJ Adam Cruz, and I'm sitting here next to my fantastic co-host,
Eddie Nicholas, and we're back again. What's going on, Adam? Because when we're talking about virtual reality again, did we miss any points or anything?
No, we're planning. Sure. We're right now in the midst of our brand planning exercise, right? And it's funny, we're talking about the virtues of virtual reality in our first segment, but it still applies for this brand planning that we're talking about, because it's all in the name of the future of the music game as it relates to you out there watching, all right, or listening. So we're talking about 4 ways that you can plan for your brand. This wasn't like in previous episodes where we gave you some tips about how to brand yourself in the music game. We're saying, okay, you've already branded yourself, let's pretend. Now, how do you plan for that brand? And so 2 things we talked about already is to focus on your vision and to narrow down your audience. The other thing we want to talk about is a very important point, setting measurable goals.
And that means what you can really actually accomplish and do. Sometimes we set out and we have these big goals that we want to accomplish, and then we end up finding that they're too lofty for us to complete.
Exactly.
So when you look back, and as we call them, milestones or benchmarks, you know, what do I do to reach A benchmark to get me to B benchmark? So
and planning, planning is about so let's look out a year in advance, right? Let's give yourself time. Try not to do things in a rush. Give yourself that plan for a year. What does you, the artist, look like in a year's time? What will you be doing? What will you be doing in 6 months' time? What will you be doing in 3 months' time? What will you be doing next month? What will you be doing next week? What will you be doing today? What did you do yesterday that you could learn from? You see how I just did that? Planning for your brand. That means, okay, I'm an artist here in New Jersey, in the New Jersey area. Right now, the weather's starting to get a little bit colder. So we just finished the season of being mostly outdoors. Lots of outdoor festivals, free, for pay, lots of different activities in and around the area. But now people are starting to hunker down as the weather gets colder. Exactly. So this is a great time for me and where I live to plan for my brand for next summer, let's say. If my goals are to play at one of the big festivals, I have to do my due diligence and look online or talk to professionals or others involved with that festival to say, hey, when do you start accepting submissions for next year? Oh, January? Okay, well now it's September, October now. Okay, have time to get my photos up, my bio up to date, my links to my latest mix, all the tools I'm gonna need to make sure that festival is impressed by me to hire me next summer.
And that does not guarantee that one will be taken in, but
you know it's not going to be for lack of you trying.
Exactly, because you can't say I did not submit.
And I didn't do my homework. That's the other thing. It's very important that we do our homework. In this instance, we're talking about setting measurable goals. So get those goals on paper, set them up, and make sure that they're attainable. It's not like I said in the last segment, Madonna at American Bandstand talking about, I'm going to take over the world. That's cute, but you need little bites, because that's the key. Little bites. The last thing I want to talk about is have a game plan.
Yes.
Oftentimes we take a shot in the dark. I always say it's like watching paint come down on a wall. That's the putting music out without a purpose. That's what I mean. And so I want to talk about the importance of having a game plan. Okay, you're about to put out your new album, or you're about to release that painting or that book or that new piece of poetry. What is your plan for yourself? So we often talk about simple things. In the case of music, you can pair your music release with something. Is it going to be the beginning of a tour for yourself? Are you going to have a new t-shirt to sell? Are you going to perform down the street and you're going to use that performance day to release your album? Things like that. Or your birthday. Hey, it's my birthday. Support me by buying my new single or streaming my new single. So those are part of the planning process, but that's really the easiest stuff. Let's talk about planning for a year now of that single or album.
And that means pulling out your calendar and looking at when you plan to release it, what you have to do after it's released.
Yeah.
How do you keep the longevity? You know, that's one thing that I'm going through now with the Do You Want to Dance LP. You know, it's been almost 7 months now, 7 or 8 months since that album has been out. What do I do now to continuously make people interested in music from that project? What do I, as my brand, Eddie Nicholas, what do I pair each of these songs with to make sure that people get the opportunity to hear each of these songs individually as opposed to on a lengthy album?
Exactly.
So
I think it's important, even just simple little point, like we were talking last week, just in preparation for this episode, just marinating over ideas. And then during the course of the discussion, Eddie said, hey, we should highlight more of our own material. I said, that's a great point. I'm about to prepare my mix for the next episode. I will play a song from your album again, because we need to, like he said, what do you do to get interest, keep it up? So during the mix of this episode, we started with one of Eddie's records, Goomba, the Three Kings remix.
From the Three Kings.
And again, why are we saying that? Because that's part of planning for his brand. So he said, okay, we have this platform at Freedom Radio Hour. Let's use that platform to highlight our music, whether it's brand new 7 months ago or 8 months later. So I think that's the key, is to plan for your brand in all aspects. One of the last points is, remember how we talked about the importance of knowing your audience, local versus global, right? You can do the same thing with your game planning. When you set your game plan up, you want to pair your release with, say, a physical appearance somewhere, yes. But you know that you could also do virtual reality screenings. You know, we did that with Eddie's album when it first came out. We did this very setup, but we had a live link. You could chat with us live, ask us questions, and we really broke down the concept in his album. You can do the same thing with yourself. There are just too many apps and ways for you to do various things to highlight your work.
And for you to be able to, as Madonna said, conquer the world.
Yes.
You know, it's all a matter of how you apply it, how you learn to execute it, and the networking. Because while you're still doing that, you still got to network. Because you still got to make other connections for people to be able to tune in and to, importantly, share and purchase.
Exactly. Well, that's all the time we have today. Thank you so much for tuning in with us here at the Freedom Radio Hour. Make it your business to check out EddieNicholas.com. You know, he has a brand new single entitled Revolution out, as well as his Do You Want to Dance album. You can check it out right now at EddieNicholas.com. Also, check out my website at DJAdamCruz.com. You know, I wrote a book called it's called Free the Music Business, Tips and Tales from an Indie Music Nerd, available on Amazon. If you'd rather hear, it's available as an audiobook on Audible, available on Lulu. And also check out mixtapesessions.com. Peace to our broadcasting partners. Have a great weekend and a great week ahead. I'll see you next time.
91.6 FM, the Freedom Radio Hour, y'all. Peace, love, happiness, and hair grease, and of course, a whole lot of soul.
That's right. And share and like everything we're putting out there. We appreciate it so much. Check out our app, y'all. Have a good one. Peace.
Have a good one.